Joining me now from Queen's Park is Premier Doug Ford. Premier, welcome to the program. You've had a big week, the nuclear option being used with the Notwithstanding clause that is, basically to help provinces protect their turf. You're using it to reduce the size of city council. Yeah. Why do this?
Well, Mercedes, I don't call it the nuclear option. I call it the will of the people's option. We were democratically elected by 2.3 million people. We also campaigned on reducing the size and cost of government, and Toronto is one of the main engines that run Ontario, Toronto and the GTA. We have absolutely gridlock everywhere in this city when it comes to transportation. We had one subway line, Mercedes, that has been voted on 8 times out in Scarborough. No one can get around in this city. No one can get around the 905. You can leave Etobicoke. It takes me an hour and 15 minutes to get downtown because nothing can get done. Good governance in any corporation is 7 to 9 people on a board. You could have 20 of the smartest people on the board, nothing gets done. They wanted to increase it from 44 to 47. That's unacceptable. We have to get housing built. We have a housing crisis that people can't find housing anywhere. They can't find rentals. And they can't afford housing in the city of Toronto. The average...
But how does cutting the size of city council help that?
How does that help it? There's going to be decisions made. I've sat down at city council and we've debated shark fin soup for 12 hours. You got to be kidding me, for 12 hours. We've debated stuff that is absolutely meaningless for 2 days down at City Hall. Nothing gets done down there. Let me go back to David Miller. David Miller couldn't build transit. Rob Ford, my own brother, he could save $1,160 million, but he couldn't get transit built. John Tory, he promised to get transit built, but he hasn't been able to get a shovel in the ground. Everything down at City Hall, Mercedes, is defer, defer, defer. We need infrastructure, we need housing, we need transit. Nothing is getting done. As a province that has promised all 3 of those areas, we need a partner that we can work with, not a partner that is totally dysfunctional. And City Hall is the most dysfunctional arena, political arena in the entire country. Everyone knows it.
So clearly, and it's no secret that you're not a fan of City Hall, as you've mentioned just now, but this was nowhere in your campaign platform. You didn't appeal it through the courts, and your critics are saying that makes it undemocratic and that it's undermining the rule of law. Why not exercise your other options before the Notwithstanding clause?
Well, first of all, it doesn't undermine the rule of law whatsoever. I campaigned over and over again within even Toronto, spoke to tens of thousands of people in Toronto. They said, you have to fix City Hall. I campaigned on reducing the size and cost of government. And we're going to reduce the size and cost of government, not just in Toronto, but across the province, and finding efficiencies and driving efficiencies. And people can't wait years and years and years for transit to be built. We need transit now.
But why not appeal this through the courts, Premier?
I'm sorry?
Why not appeal this through the courts?
Well, we are appealing it through the courts, but there's a time frame too. And a lot of the critics will say, well, wait 4 years. What, another 4 years of dysfunction? 4 years of gridlock? 4 years of crisis when it comes to housing? 4 years of infrastructure crumbling under our feet? We're trying to get the city moving. We want to save millions and tens and hundreds of millions of dollars. My opposition, they're protecting downtown NDP jobs, politicians' jobs. That's all they're worried about. That's their main focus. I can't wait until one day the NDP comes in and says, we just found a way to save taxpayers' money, or we found a way to get housing or transit. Right now, all they're doing is protecting their friends' jobs, and specifically NDP downtown councillors. You look at the vote, Mercedes, I believe it was 18 people voted for this. So there was 44 people, and they went out, and what's surprising, they made a big deal about reducing the size of council, but no one's saying a word when they arbitrarily wanted to increase it from 44 to 47. I have yet to meet
Can I
anyone,
ask you about
Mercedes.
the court decision, Premier? I know some Conservatives think that there are judges in Canada who are trying to make law instead of interpret it. They call them activist judges. Is that
Yes.
what you think happened in this case?
You know, Mercedes, I can't comment on the judge. My hands are tied. They put a duct tape over my mouth. But I can tell you one thing. There's a reason why they have an appeals court. Because sometimes, and I'm not saying this judge made a mistake, sometimes judges make mistakes. There's a reason why they have the Superior Court. They make mistakes and things get changed. Thousands of decisions get changed when it goes to the appeal court. And we'll see what happens there, but let's make no mistake about it. It's in the Constitution. We talked to endless constitutional experts, some of the best in the entire country. And by the way, a lot of them don't agree with our party, but this was a no-brainer. I've talked to retired judges that have told me straight out, this should have taken 15 minutes. This is a no-brainer. But again, we're trying to drive efficiencies, build housing, build infrastructure, get transit going. And that's the way you do it. You can't keep waiting and deferring and deferring and deferring. That's all the City of Toronto does. And there's no one out there agree or disagree with me, because the same people that are protesting against us, the NDP, are the same people I know very well, have come up to me over the 4 years I was down there and said, this is dysfunctional. There isn't a council down there that won't agree it's a dysfunctional system. Mayor Tory has told me personally it's dysfunctional.
Is it worth potentially provoking what some say could be a constitutional crisis if others start using the notwithstanding clause more frequently in other provinces? Is it worth that over Toronto City Council?
So if I'm not mistaken, correct me if I'm wrong, Mercedes, it's been used 18 times or 19 times in our country. What I have a problem with, when one single judge, and I don't care what his leanings were, but one single judge overrules a democratically elected government that got elected with 2.3 million people. The reason this was put into the Constitution was for these exact reasons. When judges believe, and a single judge in this case believes, that maybe they should make the laws and enforce the laws. I believe they should actually enforce the laws, and make no mistake about it. I have a tremendous amount of respect for the judges, for the courts, for our judiciary system. I think we have one of the best judiciary systems in the world. But there's a reason why we have an appeals court and we have higher courts, because sometimes judges make mistakes.
People see this as a pretty brash move on your part, especially early on in the mandate, something you've never shied away from. But I'm curious to know what you think of this. Your actions are being compared to someone south of the border, President Donald Trump. Are you Canada's Donald Trump, and what do you think of that comparison?
Well, I have to laugh every time I hear this, because the only people that talk about it are the NDP and the media. When I go out there, and our supporters, the 2.3 million people, and I crisscross this province 3 or 4 times from end to end, I never heard that. The only people that want to keep talking about it are the media and our opposition. I can tell you one thing. We've been in politics a lot longer than the President of the United States has been. Our family's been involved for over 30 years, serving the people, giving back to the community, and we're going to keep working hard for the taxpayers, because we ran on one basis, for the people. And when the people can't get around in transit, can't get housing, can't get infrastructure, taxes going up, there's zero accountability, we're going to actually hold people accountable. We're going to hold governments accountable in all over 460 towns in this province to make sure they maximize their budgets in the best way they can to respect the taxpayers.
Well, that's all the time we have, Premier Ford, but thank you very much for joining us.
I appreciate it. Thanks so much, Mercedes.